friends for you. Cause you couldn't stand it, me all independent. So you had to have me for yourself. That was when I trusted you. When I could add up 2 and 2. When you promised we'd be together, you, me, forever. Now there's nothing left to lose. And though I understand it's hard sometimes to make up your mind in these trying times, yeah. I just can't accept you leaving me when I'm overseas with the heart so heavy. Think that I deserve the truth for once, not a guilty tone, cause you're not alone, yeah. You said you wanna come home, but I know you don't. So this time I won't hear it on the phone. If you got something to say to me, then say it to my face. What it's all about, why you're bailing out. Think you owe me an apology. Just say it to my face. You're sorry. You're so sorry. You're so sorry. You're so sorry. Say it to my face. You're sorry.
The Benjamin Dixon Show is only possible with listener support. Go to www.patreon.com/The BPD Show.
Today is Monday, October 18th, 2021. And as we look at the various absurdities that are around us, the absurdity of our political structure and our political situation, an untenable situation where we literally cannot get anything done as it appears as this country is burning around us. Let's discuss that at great lengths today. We begin, as always, with On the Clock with Georgia Ford.
New law in Texas is requiring that educators offer students multiple perspectives when teaching about widely debated topics or even controversial issues. Now, this comes in light of a lot of controversy surrounding CRT, but one administrator is under fire in Texas after interpreting this as needing to offer multiple perspectives when it comes to teaching about the Holocaust. Take a look at recent coverage.
A school district superintendent in Southlake apologized Thursday night after one of the district's administrators advised teachers that if they have a book about the Holocaust in their classroom, they should also have a book with an opposing perspective.
We are in the middle of a political mess, and you are in the middle of a political mess. And so we just have to do the best that we can. And so we're going to go and you're going to do what you do best, and that's to teach kids. You are professionals. We hired you as professionals. We trust you with our children. So if you think the book is okay, then let's go with it. And whatever happens, we will fight it together. We will.
There's a lot of districts that are in the exact same spot we're in, and no one knows how to navigate these waters. I mean, no one.
Just try to remember the concepts of 3979 and make sure that if you have a book on the Holocaust, that you have one that has opposing, that has other.
How do you oppose the Holocaust?
Believe me, that's come up.
A group of educators were actually instructed to teach a Nazi sympathizer's perspective on the genocide that killed 6 million Jews and millions of others, including the disabled, political and religious dissidents, and gay men. A spokesperson for the Carroll Independent School District said the administrator's example about the Holocaust reflects the district's attempt to comply with a new state law that requires teachers to present multiple perspectives when discussing, quote, widely debated and currently controversial issues. The superintendent clarified, saying, quote, as we continue to work through implementation of House Bill 3979, we also understand this bill does not require an opposing viewpoint on historical facts, adding they would add clarity to their expectations for teachers.
No, Ben, I'm not surprised. I mean, when you think about how much backlash there was when people were trying to roll out CRT in schools, I'm not surprised. I think that this new bill in Texas that is requiring educators to offer multiple perspectives is a direct response to CRT, but it is absolutely absurd that we're hearing from not just new, inexperienced teachers, but administrators, superintendents who are saying, yeah, let's go ahead and make sure we have some opposing viewpoints to the Holocaust. Really?
Right. And so this is dealing with a level of absurdity that this country has gone to, right? Even in our media, even in our education, it's this idea that we should have some kind of balanced conversation over whether or not evil is actually evil. Whether or not murder is actually murder, genocide is actually genocide. And this is the absurdity of it. And it has gone so far now that the question of these type of conversations always existed. But now the conversation has been taken to the school boards and they're trying to codify it and put it in our books.
You know, and I think it's interesting that just that audio was leaked, you know, where you're hearing inside amongst teachers this conversation about what they have to do now in order to make sure that they are abiding by the law. And could you imagine that as an educator, you're now living in a time where you could be in the class teaching history and actually be breaking the law?
Yeah, especially when you have to give this appearance of being unbiased, right? But I have I just believe, Georgia, that we should be biased against evil and bigotry and genocide and murder and marginalization and all these things that these so-called white supremacists are injecting into the national discourse and now trying to put in our education system. And I want to be sure, of course, our holistic education system is problematic, but they're trying to escalate it. They're trying to put it to where now we can't even question whether or not genocide is a bad thing without giving some kind of fake or faux balanced alternative.
You know, it's a sad reality. And it reminds me also of the conversations that were happening 10 years ago around climate change. And there was just this gross denial about the reality of our climate and how it was changing. And now here we are seeing all the ramifications of this idea that we need to offer an alternative to the truth, that we should entertain a lie. And I think that same culture is what cultivated the people who still to this day believe that Biden didn't win the election. When we live in a society where we oppose the truth with an alternative that people really believe in, you're going to have folks who are delusional, who are living in a quote unquote reality that is not based on facts or truth, but is based on ideas and opinions that in a lot of times don't benefit anybody and cause more harm than good.
Absolutely. Right. So this idea of offering a balanced alternative in the face of everything that we know to be true about the barbarity, not only of the Holocaust, but the barbarity of chattel slavery, the barbarity of Jim Crow, the prison industrial complex, and the military industrial complex. There are no both sides to some of these equations that we're dealing with on a daily basis. And there certainly is not one when it comes to the Holocaust, and certainly is not an alternate side when it comes to white so-called supremacy.
I mean, these are the same educators who are still teaching that Christopher Columbus discovered America.
Yeah.
You know, let's just be real. You know, if we're offering an alternative to the Holocaust, you know, I would be really curious to know what these educators are offering as the other side to slavery. I remember at one point reading in a textbook when I was in 9th grade in American history that slaves, in fact, were not beaten because they were too valuable pieces of property. You know, and so if this is the rhetoric that we're offering to our children, America is headed for a very, very scary place in 10 and 20 years. This next generation that is being indoctrined with an alternative to the Holocaust.
Right. It's terrifying, right? And we're living in that reality a little bit now. We're getting closer and closer to it each day, where you mentioned critical race theory, right? Their reaction, them, you already identify them. The same folks who were supporting January 6th. The Venn diagram and the overlap of people who want us to talk about something to give an alternative opinion as it pertains to the horrors of the Holocaust. Those are the same people who marched up the steps of the Capitol on January 6th. Those are the same people who deny the reality of what happened to George Floyd. Those are the same people that we're fighting against every single day for basic human decency. And so the overlap between the absurdity of those people who think that there is some type of conversation to be had about the Holocaust and those who believe in the big lie, I believe it's probably 100% overlap, Georgia.
Absolutely. Well, Ben, I know that you have been following a story this morning as well.
Yeah, we're following a story that's coming out of India, a news outlet out of India, and I'm reading from The Guardian reporting on it. There's a rotting Red Sea oil tanker that could leave nearly 8 million people without water. This tanker is positioned near Yemen. Yemen is engaged currently in an ongoing civil war with Saudi Arabia, and that perhaps is not the best way to describe the humanitarian crisis that is being caused directly by Saudi Arabia on the people of Yemen, especially the children of Yemen. But to add insult to injury, Georgia, there is an oil tanker that has been there since 2017. This oil tanker has been completely abandoned, and now it stands a risk of leaking 1.1 million barrels of oil. And if you think about it, that is more than the oil that leaked from the Exxon Valdez back in 1989. And so this is a catastrophic situation that is happening in real time. They understand that this tanker is a threat to the ecosystem in the immediate area. It is a threat to the people of Yemen. It's even a threat to the people of Saudi Arabia. It's a threat to the environment, and it poses a significant problem, particularly because the people who are responsible for this tanker are allowing it to sit and rot since 2017. In very short order, these oil barrels could leak into the water supply there, killing all the fish, as well as making the water undrinkable and creating yet another disaster. You were speaking earlier about the conversation about both sides, Georgia, where there's no both sides to this. There's no both sides to the environment and the culpability of these corporations who see that abandoning this many barrels of oils since 2017 is an acceptable path forward, but it is certainly not an acceptable path forward for the people of Yemen.
Yeah, and Ben, what I don't understand is why we continuously see, even right now here in Minnesota, Enbridge, Line 3 is still under construction. How do we continuously see all of the evidence that this type of transportation of oil, it doesn't work? And again, when you talk about causing more harm than good, there has to be another way that does not jeopardize our environment, because we don't get a redo, and we also don't know the long-term effects that all of this oil spilling out is going to have on our environment, on our soil. Right. And you can mitigate it and you can clean it. But once that oil has spilled out in a place where it's not supposed to be, the long-term effects of that are going to be felt for generations to come. So when you think about the natural resources that we need to just live, we need clean air, we need water, just the basic things. Yet and still, because you have these huge corporations that value money, that value profits over people, they'll continue to jeopardize our well-being in order to make a dollar.
Oh, absolutely. They will not only jeopardize our well-being, but they'll sit back and watch us die if necessary to get that quarterly profit margin. Just ask the car manufacturers who didn't want to put in the plastic block stock to help keep cars from exploding. They did a cost-benefit analysis, and we found out later, after the fact, that they would rather have paid the cost of the lawsuits because of the deaths than to pay for the cost of the plastic piece that would have saved lives. Now, when it comes to the equation between capitalism and human life, we've seen where America falls at sundry times, at all the times. But now we're looking at this situation where since 2017, like Georgia, there's not a piece of property that I could abandon for that many years, for 4 years, especially one of this significance and this magnitude, and I be allowed to simply carry on as business as usual. This is something that should have been rectified as soon as humanly possible. But here we are 4 years later, and now it's an ecological disaster waiting to happen.
And then when you talk about 8 million people being impacted, what is the consequence for this? When are the consequences of this going to be so grave that these corporations start actually,
that's right,
making different decisions?
That's right.
This should be criminal. It should be criminal. This is not something that money can repair. And there's a saying, if it's not repaired, it will be repeated. And so we see this decision within corporations repeated over and over and over. When you look at the cost to fix something versus the fine that you'll get if it breaks.
That's right.
The fine is just a little slap on the wrist. But how are you continuously getting a slap on the wrist when your irresponsible behavior is impacting 8 million people.
Well, particularly here in the United States,
doesn't add up.
No, it doesn't. It doesn't add up. But the way they get away with it here in the United States is that they purchase politicians, right? They make contributions to their campaign. And all the while, they understand that those dollars are going to be used in the long run to make sure that there's no accountability, to make sure that there's no culpability. No one will be held accountable for these types of disasters, not in any significant kind of fashion, nothing but their pocket lint, their pocket change. They could pay these fines with their pocket change, but the environment is not recovering, and the people are going to suffer in the long run.
I mean, is it too harsh to say that some of these folks responsible for damaging our environment need to start getting locked up? I think they need to go to jail.
That's right.
I think that is going to be the only way that you'll start to see leadership in these corporations mitigate these types of issues. Because right now, if it's just a little fine, it's no big deal. These people need to be held accountable for the damage that they're causing to our Earth. Because when it's said and done, Ben, they'll be in Pluto. They'll be on another planet while we're here with little to nothing left because they've destroyed it.
And if they think that they can survive without this planet, then we're dealing with not only sociopaths, but we're dealing with morons. Because they have no place to go. I don't care how many times Jeff Bezos touches the tip of the planet. I don't care how many trips they take. The fact of the matter is that this is the only planet we have, and if they continue to treat it this way, then I'm afraid we're all going to go down with the ship.
You know, Ben, there's another story I'm tracking this morning in regards to the Transportation Secretary, Pete Buttigieg. A lot of people know that in August, he went on paternity leave, his partner, and he adopted children. And so he's on leave. And I think that it's fortunate that he works for an employer who has given him that time off. And, you know, this story is close to my heart and is important to me, not only as I'm just sitting here holding my child, right? But also because I ended up as an independent journalist because I didn't get maternity leave. And when I didn't get maternity leave and I was actually terminated from my position as a news anchor, it was really eye-opening. Because, you know, here we are in the 21st century. We live in America, yet and still we have parental laws like it's the 20s. I want you guys to take a listen at Tucker Carlson, who has his own thoughts and opinions about paternity leave. Take a look.
Pete Buttigieg has been on leave from his job since August after adopting a child. Paternity leave, they call it, trying to figure out how to breastfeed. No word on how that went.
Fox is amazing. It's a great organization, really a family-friendly organization. They give us 6 weeks as dads for paternity. I'm taking that 6 weeks. I can't wait to bond with my little one. I'm not sure my dad got like the afternoon after I was born, but Fox really helps us.
As you might imagine, we're bottle feeding and doing it at all hours of the day and night. And I'm not going to apologize to Tucker Carlson or anyone else for taking care of my premature newborn infant twins. And it's work that every American ought to be able to do when they welcome a new child into their family. I campaigned on that. So did the president. The Build Back Better agenda includes provisions for paid family leave. By the way, we're pretty much the only country left that doesn't have some kind of national policy for paid leave. I think it's down to us and Papua New Guinea. It is long past time to make it possible for every American mother and father to take care of their children when a new child arrives in the family.
You know, and when you look across the world, yes, we are the only country left.
That's right. And
so we're definitely not leading on this issue. I mean, there's countries, Ben, that offer 52 weeks. They offer you an entire year off. And so how is it in the 21st century that we don't have a federal minimum And yes, I do think fathers should get time off. That's how we start to deteriorate the gender roles, the gender norms that have plagued this country since its inception. Right. But at a minimum, when you're talking about women who are giving birth, who are putting their life on the line, they, at minimum, should be able to get 6 to 12 weeks off to just physically recover. We don't even have that as a federal mandate. Then you have Tucker Carlson at Fox News, who wants to make fun of a man stepping up to his responsibility and his duty as a father.
Yeah. I think I think Tucker feels as though he can get away with this one because Pete Buttigieg is gay, and he assumes that most people are going to be okay with hurting ourselves collectively as it pertains to paternal care and maternity leave because it's something everyone needs. But what Tucker and Fox News know is that if you throw in a little bit of red blood, they could get away with anything. And so what we're going to find is that a lot of Republicans are going to now be attacking the idea of paternity leave and maternity leave when they know they need it themselves. But that is the absurdity of this moment. One other observation, Georgia, isn't it funny how quickly these people who are so-called pro-life abandon children because they didn't even wait till these kids got old enough to go to middle school or elementary school. They say, we don't care about you as soon as you come out the womb because we don't even want your parents to spend time with you. Good luck, kid.
You know what I want to know, Ben, is where is that same energy? Those people who want to cancel Dave Chappelle. Where's that same energy now? You know, because here you have Tucker Carlson attacking a man and his partner for raising their children, mocking them, asking, what are you trying to do? Breastfeed? Raising children is more than just breastfeeding. And yes, even if you're looking at a parental relationship where you have a man and a woman raising a child, that mother needs a break. It takes two, and so I think it's interesting. You have people like Tucker Carlson who can get away with mocking the gay community. And I wonder where that backlash is. And I wonder if people are going to try to cancel him because if you ask me, he should have been canceled a long time ago.
Right. And this is one of the few places where I absolutely give Hillary Clinton some credit because she properly labeled these people back in 2016 as deplorables. The reason there won't be any backlash for Tucker is because he's created an entire platform off of deplorables. Their entire audience, deplorable. They enjoy the cruelty of attacking somebody because of their identity or their sexual orientation or whatever reason they can find, their race, their ethnicity, or they're an immigrant. Anything that they can find to attack someone, that is what they want. And so, of course, Tucker won't be held accountable because, his audience, they're applauding this and they think that it is in their best interest when at the end of the day, Georgia, they need the same type of maternity and paternity leave as every other American, but their bigotry just gets in the way.
What I thought was interesting is, Tucker Carlson was at one time born. We were all born, and
I think so, Tucker might have been hatched, but
you might be right about that. But, the thing about parental leave, maternity leave, paternity leave is we all got here the same way. No matter what our political beliefs are, no matter if we're LGBTQ, it doesn't matter how we identify, how we were raised, what type of privilege we were born with or lack thereof. We all got here the same exact way. And in order for this country to continue to exist, there's going to have to be women somewhere that are going to continue to give birth. And so when I was researching this issue, because I did advocate to change the law in Minnesota after what happened to me, not only one time as a news anchor, but the next job I had after that with my youngest daughter, I was considered a part-time employee. Well, no, I was full-time, but it was it wasn't a permanent position. It was a temporary position. And so because of the classification of my position, I, again, was not eligible for maternity leave, you know? And so I would love for our country to get to a place where, yes, we can have parental leave, regardless of your status, if you're adopting, if you're a father. But if we don't protect the womb carriers, you're going to see more and more women who are going to choose to abort because the career is completely derailed every single time. You know, if that is not built into the labor laws, the employment laws, women are going to continue to be dispositioned. And why would they choose to do that over and over and over again?
That's right, Georgia. I think that is, I mean, that might be one of the strongest points in this whole conversation, especially when you're talking about different jobs with labor shortages, all these employers who are looking for workers. You know, if you treat your workers right, happier worker base, if you treat them right, then they will come, they will stay, they will blossom, they will grow there. But we've been put in so many situations, Georgia, just my family personally, we literally had to relocate out of Boston because of paternity and maternity conversations, because of the exorbitant cost of having a child in a metropolitan area like that. So the fact of the matter is you're absolutely right. There's just so many people, women in particular, who would absolutely love to be able to engage in their careers at a higher level, but jobs are just not doing what is in the best interest for them, particularly as it pertains to their children.
And Georgia, good morning. I just wanted to break in real quick because we have some breaking news and I wanted to try to get it in before we're out of time. We actually just received word that Colin Powell died of COVID complications, 84.
Wow.
Oh, man.
Wow.
Man.
David, thank you for that.
To his family. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I wasn't, Georgia, I wasn't even aware that Colin Powell was suffering from COVID-19. And we all,
me either.
Yeah, significant character in American military history, recent history. Condolences to his family. Thank you for that update,
Wow.
David.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, just to reiterate, you know, that we're still in the midst of this pandemic, that this is a real thing. Protect yourselves, protect your families.
Yeah.
Ben, I know we are on the clock here. And so I want to be respectful and allow time for folks to soak that information in and also be aware of what's coming up next.
Yeah, no, absolutely. We're going to discuss Colin Powell a little bit in the next block in the 9 o'clock hour with Like It or Not. We also have Dave Palmer coming during the Benjamin Dixon Show half hour. We're going to be discussing the protests, the marches that happened in New York with Chuck Schumer, making sure that we actually get something done. If we have this political power, Georgia, we must do something with it. And then at 9:15, we're going to be joined by Professor Jared Ball of Morgan State University, who's going to be shining some light onto political prisoners in the United States of America. With an incarceration rate higher than anywhere else on the face of this planet, you would understand and be certain that there are black political prisoners who are being locked up for no other reason than their political positions. We're going to be discussing that at the 8:30 hour and the 9:15.
Keep it here for that and more on the Benjamin Dixon Show.
I could really use a change of scenery. Yeah. Everybody smoking all the greenery. Yeah. Close the match 'cause they were handed down to me. But I'm still fly, I know. I'm still fly, let's go. It could all be worse, I could be a hater like you. It could was pills that make the man, but that poison's gonna kill you from the inside out. So right now, say it with your chest now. Say it with your chest now. I'm free. Can't nobody take me here and now. It's my time to run it out. It's my time. It's my time. It's my time to ride it. I'm young. I'm free. Can't nobody take me here and now. It's my time to run it out. It's my time. It's my time. It's my time to ride it out. It's your time. Oh. Cheers to all the haters, cause you proved to me that rising to the top was my destiny. And you can see whatever from behind me, but I'm still fly. I'm still fly, I know. I'm still fly. I'm still fly, let's go. It could all be worse. I could be a hater like you. It could clothes to make the man, but that poison's gonna kill you from the inside out. It's time to say it with your chest now. Say it with your chest now. I'm young, I'm free. Can't nobody take me here and now. It's my time to run it out. It's my time. It's my time. It's my time to ride it. I'm young. I'm free. Can't nobody.
Good morning, good morning, good morning, good morning, people. Y'all know who it is. You know the voice. You know the sound. It's your boy James Williams, DJ Exclusive is in the building. Good morning, everybody. Happy Monday. Missed y'all. Surely did. Good morning, y'all. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Get your tea, your coffee, whatever it is you need to get your morning started. Benjamin Dixon Show starting next, y'all. Stay tuned. Good morning, everybody.
But don't waste my energy, my energy. I don't got much, don't be wasting all my energy. I keep it tight, don't let nobody get close to me. My heart is right, don't question my integrity. No, I thought we would be just fine, and I thought your heart was like mine. But let me find out, you've been going around throwing shots, running plots. Come on, man, tryna block my blessings, but no need for comparisons. What's from me won't be from me. Yeah, I'ma go through just to grow through. But pay me what you owe me for, I make what you've been saying about me true, true. Tell them I need my money right now.
Okay. Good morning, everybody. Make sure y'all stay tuned.
Did you stay stole out my crown? Yeah. Sorry to tell you.
I don't know why. Okay, anyway, y'all, good morning again. Good morning, good morning, good morning. Good morning, good morning. Make sure y'all stay tuned. Good morning, everybody.
My loyalty, I let you in back then because I couldn't see. But now it's clear you ain't ever been true to me. My intuition ain't ever lied, I had to leave. Handle your business, do what you think you need to do to get your revenge. But you won't break me, God, as my witness. Past the point of no return, I'm on a mission. Tryna block my blessings, but no need for comparisons. What's from me won't be from me. Yeah, I'ma go through just to grow through. But pay me what you owe me for, I make what you've been saying about me true, true. Tell them I need my money right now. Probably did you stay stole out my crown? Sorry to tell you, I know my value. I'm gonna recoup, yeah. Don't waste my.
All right, y'all. Y'all stay tuned. It is about to go down. Y'all know what time it is. It is time for my brother from another mother, y'all. Benjamin Dixon Show is starting up next. Dwayne, roll that show footage, sir. Good morning, y'all.
The Benjamin Dixon Show is only possible with listener support. Go to www.patreon.com/The BPD Show.
Welcome back, folks. It's Monday, October 18th, 2021. I'm Benjamin Dixon, joined by my brother from another mother who I have not had a chance to be on screen with for a couple of days here. DJ Exclusive. How's it going, man?
Pretty good, brother. How about yourself, sir?
Doing good, man. I'm in a different location than normal. We're in the process of moving and all that stuff, man. It's been a long weekend, and I am running on nothing but, well, I won't give any energy drink a plug unless they run us a check, but I'm running on some energy drinks and some caffeine to make it through today's show. But I digress, man. Thank y'all for holding it down last week for me, man. It was a beautiful thing, man.
Hey, man, anytime. You know we got you, dog. It's no thing but a chicken wing.
No thing but the chicken wing. Hey, speaking of, we got a guest coming up in a few minutes. There's a lot of one of the big things that I think people may miss. Good morning to all the audiences: Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, Twitch, Act TV. One thing that a lot of people may not be aware of, James, is that there is constant, nonstop protest and activism that is taking place around the country. So in a few minutes, we're going to be joined by Dave Palmer. He's a senior counsel at Center for Popular Democracy. And we're going to talk with him about the protests in conjunction with our brother Cliff Albright from Black Voters Matter. We'll be speaking with them momentarily. But I want to start with a couple of clips from Right Wing Watch. It's been a while since we had a chance to talk about some evangelicals. So here's everyone's daily dose of evangelicals. Here's Lauren Witzke. She's former co-host of the Right Wing True News and former Delaware GOP candidate for Senate in 2020. She appeared on a program called No White Guilt, okay, where she spent an hour complaining that the anti-white system is allowing her white heritage to be destroyed by quote-unquote animals as part of a giant humiliation ritual. There's a lot going on in this clip. Let's take a look at it.
White Christian males or white straight males are the most persecuted class demographic in the United States of America right now, especially in the workforce. The anti-white system that advocates for us, like people like us, to not have a voice, to not have any rights, like kind of considering us like second-class citizens that don't deserve rights is what they kind of try to treat us as. They think that the system, the anti-white system, is going to spare them too, and it is not. This anti-white system, it's coming for all of us. People are starting to notice more and more that every commercial is trying to push some kind of degeneracy on you, something anti-white on you if you don't notice. If you haven't noticed, I mean, everybody's starting to notice. It's all part of a giant humiliation ritual. That's what it was when they took down our historical monuments. It was a humiliation ritual. Oh, your heritage, everything you're proud of, we're going to give it away and hand it over to these animals and let them take it, tear it down, vandalize it right in front of you, and we're not going to do anything about it. You know, that's what it is. It's meant to demoralize you as a person.
Now, James, before we jump into this, I still just want to identify who this person is. Lauren Witzke. She's a former co-host of the Right Wing True News, right? One of those outlets. You've seen all these outlets with all their money and all their big flashy graphics. She was on that network. And she was also a candidate for Senate in 2020 for the Republican Party. So, bruh, this is mainstream thinking and talking points. This is what Republicans and so-called, or rather, let me correct myself, white so-called supremacists, this is what they're really thinking.
I'm just looking like, okay. Because, yeah. And then the guy's Zoom call name is nowhiteguilt.org. Yeah. Okay. I'm not feeling it.
Bro, listen, we are in a day like, I'm sorry, they might as well have had swastikas. They may as well, right? Because this is what we're dealing with. And if we're wondering why we have a hard time getting critical race theory taught in our schools, because we got fools like this who are operating in our system every single day. Every day. Like, this is normal for them. This wasn't something that she had to read off a script. This was coming from the depths of her soul, all right? And everybody on the screen with her was like amen in her and whatnot, right? And then all the people in the audience are sending the super chats. They have an entire ecosystem of deplorables who are lined up ready to fight this second civil war because in their mind, listen to them, man, in her mind and in their minds, white men are the most persecuted group in the country. I'm sorry. It's a game. It's a game for them to see how much they can get away with hurting other people while still pretending to be as though they are those that are being hurted. Yeah, I just did that.
Oh my God.
I said hurt it. I translated to my natural vernacular came out. It didn't really mean to for it in that case. But, hey, listen, I'm trying to shine on these white so-called supremacists, and here I am messing up my vernacular. Jenna Ellis complains that she and Rudy Giuliani, I'm moving on, that she and Rudy Giuliani are being smeared for working for Trump and promoting his bogus stolen election claims, likening their efforts to former President John Adams defending British soldiers in the Boston Massacre, and to Atticus Finch in To Kill a Mockingbird. Bro, these people got issues. Let's take a listen.
For everything that Mayor Giuliani has been through, especially over this last year, it is just so insane how the left is coming after him for simply representing his clan. I mean, they're coming after me as well, frankly, but not nearly to the extent that they are Rudy. And from the profession and from the perspective of being a lawyer, it used to be that if you represented the politically inconvenient candidates or the politically inconvenient people. I mean, look at To Kill a Mockingbird. It was like you were lauded as a defense attorney like John Adams, who represented people who deserve a defense. And so just because the left absolutely hates President Trump, they are now trying to turn the profession of advocacy into a political commentary. And they're coming after every single person that was associated with Trump in just such a disastrous way. And this has such an impact on the future of America, because if we tell lawyers that in order to advocate for a client, that means that necessarily you have to subscribe to their position, and you will be liable for your bar license, essentially based on not only the merit of their case but the outcome, then we won't have advocates anymore in the United States.
There's a whole lot of talking to say a whole bunch of nothing, because there won't be a problem here in this country where you won't be able to get an attorney, especially when you're a billionaire, right? Or at least Donald Trump likes to pretend like he's a billionaire. But I digress. The point is, they're making a mountain out of molehill, James. There is, and the comparison is like, what I love is when people read a little bit of history and don't provide any context. John Adams did represent a couple of British soldiers in the aftermath of the Boston Massacre, and he did put it up as a statement of how noble it was for him as a colonizer, as a colonial, for him to stand up against the colonial power, right? I'm sorry. It has nothing to do with Rudy Giuliani standing in front of the Four Seasons, not the hotel, James, but the Four Seasons laundromat that he ended up doing his entire interview at. Like, remember he thought he was booking the Four Seasons hotel and ended up going to like a Four Seasons crematorium or something. That's how smart these people are not. And now they're trying to compare him to John Adams and Atticus Finch from To Kill a Mockingbird. No, you don't have there's no narrative that makes you all the heroes of this story. You are the village idiots, period.
Yeah, absolutely, brother. You said it right. And it kills me sometimes when people think that they're doing so good that they start comparing themselves to old figures, to ancestors and everything. And like, you sound dumb. You sound so dumb right now. Do you realize what you sound like? Did you repeat this speech in the mirror to yourself? Did you run this past anybody? And you probably did run it past somebody and they gave you the wrong information. So you was like, oh yeah, that sounds good. Yeah, that sounds real good. I think I'm going to go on TV and say this stuff and I think I'll be okay. Yeah, it does sound good. Say it. And then you get out here and you acting like a fool. It sound like a fool.
It's like all of these people, all these like super, I don't know how to describe these incels, all these sad white supremacists who sit in their mama's basements and like to think that they are the descendants of Alexander the Great. They start comparing
Yes.
themselves to Alexander the Great. I'm like, no, you weren't even bad enough to be his eunuch. You would have been like, not even his slave. Most of these people today are laughable. Historical figures would probably execute these people on sight, right?
On sight.
Let alone sit around and have a conversation with them. Like Alexander, they really believe that they are somehow the inheritance, the recipients of an inheritance of greatness because of their whiteness, and their ancestors would have shot them on sight. They wouldn't have had nothing to do with these clowns. One other clip before our first guest comes this morning. Pat Robertson, who is one step away from the grave, is trying to get right with God before it's all said and done, because he's come out now and said that God loves everybody. And shout out, he gave my book a shout out. He said also that God is not a Republican. He wasn't talking about my book, but I have a book by the same title. It's on a couple of websites. So let's play the clip before I do some more selfish, shameless plugs. Let's run the clip.
We had an enormous amount of influence, and I think it was important.
Were there any negatives to tying Christian evangelicalism to the Republican Party?
Well, there's no question about it. I became to realize without question that God is not a Republican, that God loves everybody. And the trouble with, getting involved in partisan politics is that half the electorate you make mad at you. And there was no legacy. What's next? Well, there's no legacy. I should be dealing with eternal matters and not secular politics.
Now you say that. Dude about to die. Like, what we get? What you get, James? 5 years, 10 at the most. Let's just. I'm being gracious here. He's growing a beard though. Did you see the little mustache, the goatee? I was like, look at him trying to switch it up at the end. Trying to switch it.
I'm not taking part with you this morning. I'm not fooling with you.
I was going to get worse,
when he said he 1 foot inside the grave. I was like, oh, God.
Oh, no, James. I said he's growing his beard so he could be casket sharp. I mean, this is how close to the grave this man is. I'm on a roll this morning, bro.
Big boy, he is. Yeah, he's looking like the Crypt Keeper these days. He's looking pretty good.
He's pulling it together. The Crypt Keeper got a beard, and he's having a mea culpa, man. He's like, I should not have gotten involved in this petty partisan politics. What I should have done was kept my eyes on things eternal. All the while, he's been one of the biggest banes of our existence in trying to get basic things for humanity.
Absolutely. Yep.
Man, I know God's, depending on what you believe and what you don't believe, whatever, I know God's grace is sufficient, but sometimes, man, I wish these folks would just go exactly where they belong. That's it. Y'all pray for me, man. I done left my little house in Atlanta and we on the move, and I don't know. I don't have any patience for these clowns no more, James. I'm just what it is, bro.
Hey. It's okay. It's understandable. Sometimes you just got to do what you got to do, brother. It's okay.
Man, if I told the truth about what I really thought about these people, I think I would be canceled. But we'll see. I got one last clip before we get to our first guest. And this is from an anti-vax activist called Matt Staver, calling the vaccine mandates a purge, and says that the White House is the most hostile in history to America, that this White House, the Joe Biden White House, is the most hostile in history to America and America's values. It is designed to literally destroy this country. Let's run this clip.
Certainly the White House, the majority in the House, and the Senate. There's the reason why a lot of bad legislation hasn't passed, because some good people stood up against this socialist, Marxist, anti-American rhetoric and regime and agenda in the Senate. So what we need to do is we need to increase those numbers. And then, going back to the previous callers, then we can go down the road of, other avenues. Maybe it's treason or something else. But certainly the White House is the most hostile in history to America and America's values. It is designed to literally destroy this country. And it is destroying it in many ways. But these four shots, don't underestimate what they're doing. This is a purge. It is a purge of people from all these sectors that ideologically don't agree with this administration.
He said it. He said it. Ben, he said it. We all heard what he just said, right? You heard the same thing that I heard?
I heard the same thing you heard, brother. I heard the same thing that you heard. Getting the vaccine is the purge. Man, I've never seen people. So we're going to take a break. We're going to come back and we're going to be speaking with Dave Palmer, and we're going to be speaking about the various protests that are happening around the country, particularly the one that just took place yesterday in New York. But James, bro, we are really dealing with a level of absurdity where I've never seen people so excited about running to their deaths. Like give me, run out into the cold and give me COVID-19. I'm thinking of a movie. I didn't land it. But the point is like I've never seen people so encouraged and so committed to their ignorance that they would be willing to die. I don't really care about him comparing it to the purge because that is the absurdity. What it is just one more data point in a massive amount of data set that shows us. That shows us that the Republican Party, they are 100% committed to maximizing the amount of people that die from COVID-19. James, take us to a quick break. When we come back, we're going to be joined by Dave Palmer, and we're going to be speaking about the actions that are taking place all around this country. The people are not sitting down. They're doing more than watching. They are acting. When we come back, we'll discuss that right after this.
All right, good morning. I got an ice box. I guess coming up next, so that y'all stay tuned. Good morning, everybody. Came from the trenches, they ain't showing us no love. Now I don't have any music in my ear. That feels great. All right, everybody, make sure that y'all stay tuned. Stay tuned. We have our guest coming up next, man. Shout out everybody this morning. Good morning, everybody on Twitter, Twitch, Facebook, YouTube. Where are you streaming from? Good morning, Lily. Good morning. What the dragon? What's going on? KFC. Brenda, good morning. Just some hood baby with some issues. Hood baby from the struggle. Good morning, Daddy. Good morning. I'm just glad we made it. Good morning, Good morning, the fire. What's going on? Shout out, brother Chuck D. Tiger. Susan, what's going on? Emily French, Shay, Dragon Dane, what's going on, y'all? Good morning. Savage Sweetheart. What's going on, sister? Love you, mean it. Either they love me or I'm a target. Cause I told me you flawless. I've been busy and picking up when you calling. And on purpose, I hate the fact when you talking. But anything that you need, dog, I got you, I mean that. All this pressure make it hard not to relapse. The progression make it hard for me to relax. Baby, you know what I'ma lead that. Dogs need to step it up, I gotta be that. Cause life's all crazy. Project Red for good morning. Jeremiah Safe for good morning. It's pop, snap, crackle, and pop, but all Savage Sweetheart because it's talking over the music and talking in this mic and talking over everything at the same time. Good morning, y'all. Iris Jones, good morning. Anna Hart. I'm just glad we made it though. Baby, from the struggle. Long time. All right, y'all. Y'all welcome back to the screen. My brother from another mother, Benjamin Dixon, y'all.
Welcome back. Joining us now is Dave Palmer. He's senior counsel at the Center for Popular Democracy and Action, and he's also the organizer of the Time to Deliver rally in Brooklyn, New York yesterday. Dave, thanks so much for joining us. How are you?
I'm well. Thanks so much for having me. Appreciate it.
The pleasure is ours. I want to run a couple of clips from the protest yesterday, but before we do that, could you tell us the purpose? Why were people out in the streets yesterday, and what message were they trying to send?
Yeah, so I'm directing a coalition called the Fair Elections for New York Coalition, and we're focused, like the rest of the country, on passing the Freedom to Vote Act and the John Lewis Voter Rights Advancement Act. And we teamed up with other groups in New York who are, and there's overlap with these coalitions that are focused on the Build Back a Better agenda. And to deliver the same message to Chuck Schumer, we're kind of lucky to have the Senate Majority Leader as our senator. And so we see it as our duty to keep the pressure on there. He's an important player in getting these things done. And our message was, it's time to deliver. I believe that Chuck Schumer is actually trying to get this done. And sometimes when that's the case, you leave people alone. But this is too important. And you never know what's happening behind the scenes. You never know how hard someone is pushing. Right. And so we're going to be pushing until the end, until he delivers on both the Build Back Better agenda and the Freedom to Vote Act and John Lewis Voter Rights Advancement Act.
No, I am a strong proponent of using the protest power to hold those people who are in power accountable, even if it looks like they're doing what we want. Like you said, we don't know what's going on behind the scenes. So thank you for keeping this pressure on. I want to run this first clip. It's of our friend Cliff Albright from Black Voters Matter. He was there yesterday. Let's take a listen into this clip.
But this is challenging. It was challenging for me to be here because I come to you this morning from the state of Georgia. About 9 months ago in the state of Georgia, in November and January, we had massive turnout, historic turnout. Black voters came out in the midst of a pandemic, in the middle of the winter, and shocked the world in November, and then had the audacity to come back and do it again in January with not just one Senate seat, but 2 Senate seats. That's what gave Democrats power of both houses of Congress. In fact, that's what made Senator Schumer able to be majority leader. 9 months later, we're still waiting. So I had to come here today, along for all y'all, to deliver a message to Senator Schumer that it's time to deliver. Yes. And in order for him to deliver, he's got to be willing, and he's got to use all his force to end the filibuster. Freedom Vote Act has a lot of stuff that deals with voter access that we all need. Folks in New York want to have Election Day be a national holiday, right? Folks in New York want to have automatic voter registration, right? Folks in New York want to see campaign finance reform, right? And as Dr. King reminded us some time ago, he said we are all connected. Injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere. And I'm going to extend his remarks a little bit and say voter suppression anywhere is a threat to our voting rights everywhere. We can't move on immigration. We can't move on climate. We can't move on education, on housing, and all the issues that we care about. We can't move until we've got a Congress that reflects the people. We can't get a Congress that reflects the people as long as voter suppression exists in any state.
Now, listen, every time I hear that brother talk, I feel like we're going to church. Shout out to Cliff. And I just noticed the play on words here. 9 months in, it's time to deliver. I mean, really, what is the excuse? I mean, Cliff was hitting on all the points. We delivered November. We delivered in January. Why are we 9 months in? Because if I'm not mistaken, this is a longer amount of time than it took for Donald Trump and Paul Ryan to execute their tax breaks. And here we are. We've given Joe Biden everything. Talk to us about why 9 months later they need to go ahead and give birth to something for the people who did something for them.
You know, there's a couple reasons, I think. One is that the politics are not ideal. In New York, we're very familiar with what it means to have a Senate that's a 50-50 split, because here we had some rogue Democrats create their own operation and kind of thwart a bunch of policy agendas. In D.C., it's somewhat similar. You have a couple of moderates in the Senate that are kind of, you know, making it a slow roll here, and there's no guarantee of victory. So Schumer is facing that. That's real. I also think, and I don't know if everyone agrees with me on this one, but I think Biden made a mistake by putting forward the Build Back Better agenda right now, because democracy is an emergency, and the wins that we might get on Build Back Better could be taken back if we have minority rule in this country very soon. I almost called you this morning to say you should have Charles Blow on instead of me. I don't know if you saw his piece in the Times yesterday. It said, "Last chance to save American democracy." And I don't remember the exact line, but it was something like, even if you have, child care, you're going to have child care in a fascist state. You may have glistening infrastructure, but you're going to have glistening infrastructure in a fascist state. So right. I think, my sense is that the Biden administration doesn't have their hair on fire appropriately to deal with democracy. We have voter suppression bills where Republicans are trying to suppress his votes, essentially, in the states. They're trying to redraw maps so that they can have minority rule so that Republicans can get elected. Big money has dominated our politics for a long time, and that's going to continue unless we do something about it. And then we all know about the big lie. And, that's kind of what's undergirding some of these attacks against democracy based on a false premise. And the Freedom to Vote Act would do something about that, too. So that this is not being prioritized and is taking this long is beyond me, but deeply unsettling to say the least.
Yeah. No, I have to read that piece by Charles Blow, his book, The Devil You Know, excellent book. And tell Charles to unblock me off of Twitter. That was back in 2016. That was a whole another lifetime ago. I'd love to have him on the show, actually. That said, let's play this next clip because you had some powerful voices at the protest yesterday. Here is a clip of New York City public advocate Jermaine Williams at the same rally.
We spent a whole summer in the streets. We didn't say build back the same. We said build back better. We will not return to normal. And so I get tired when I hear people say, let's go back to normal, going back to normal. Hell no. Normal didn't work for the majority of New Yorkers. It didn't work for the majority of Americans. We have to get back better than normal. Democrats, I've been had a problem with y'all. I'm just going to be real about that. Democrats been part of the problem for a very long time. You told us if people like me said, let's get Democrats in office, if people like me would just say, Trump is really bad, so let's just get him out of office, things will be different. Now, for the past couple months, I ain't gonna lie, I seen Chuck in the right places. I see him saying and doing the right things and trying to push the right agenda. But I'm a basketball fan. The game is 48 minutes. You can play good for 30 minutes, 35 minutes. You could play excellent for 47 and a half minutes. But if you don't play well for the whole game, everything can go down the drain. We spread it up. We're coming down. We're in the last minute of the game. And Chuck, we're going to lose the game if you don't hit these free throws. I'm coming out today to say I appreciate the game you're playing, but hit them free throws or we're going to remember. Donald Trump could have gave us more of the same. I want the Democrats to give us better. That's when I put my name on the line.
I got nothing because they said it all. Help us to understand what we should be demanding in this moment and how the people who are watching this can actually help make that happen with their voices.
Yeah. You know, I love his analogy, and I've been throwing around another analogy. It's like if lawmaking were a card game, the majority leader has the best cards always, and they know what cards other players have. And so I think that was Jumani's point, is that, like, you got to go hard till the end. And that was my point earlier too. We don't know what it looks like on the inside sometimes, but we want to make sure that Schumer throws down his aces at the end of this, because if he comes home without it, that means it wasn't enough. And so it's really important for people to be weighing in. I think whether you live in New York or not, you can weigh in with the Senate Majority Leader and with the Speaker of the House. And I think especially right now with President Biden on the Freedom to Vote Act front, my point about he needs his hair on fire on this has to be prioritizing this right now, or anything else we win may be at risk. And obviously you should call your own local representative and weigh in on the importance of the Freedom to Vote Act, the John Lewis bill, and also Build Back Better. Those calls make a difference. You know, I think people sometimes think like, oh, it's just a phone call, but no, there's a staff person that tracks those calls every day, and they report to the principal on it, and it makes a difference for how those elected officials act. And the last thing I'll say is just that elected officials often don't inspire me. Jumani's one who really does, but I think of elected officials as just blowing in the breeze, the political winds. And so it's up to us to create the direction of the wind that we want so that they blow in our direction. And so that's why it's important to weigh in, join these protests, write, call, get out in the streets.
Yeah. No, absolutely. Dave Palmer, Center for Popular Democracy in Action. Tell everyone how they can get up with you and support your work.
Sure. My email is dpalmer@populardemocracy.org. I'm on Twitter at DP611. Happy to be in touch with anybody. The coalition in New York is led by the Working Families Party, Citizen Action, New York Communities for Change, Make the Road, Vocal New York, and many others. So look us up, get involved. Fair elections for New York.
Fair elections for New York. Dave Palmer, thanks so much for joining us this morning. And thank you for that, putting that time to deliver rally together yesterday, because absolutely, it is absolutely time for the Biden administration to deliver to the people and for the people who delivered for them. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thanks for having me. And it took a village to put that together, of course, but thank you.
Thank you. The pleasure is ours. And shout out to everyone who participated in that rally. And James, as I'm thinking about, we're getting ready to go to a break. I'm thinking about all the different protests that happen around this country, man. It's a constant labor of love. The people are out there working. And the news doesn't cover it. You know what I mean? Not for real. I mean, there were like 10,000 workers who struck over the weekend. There are protests, strikes all around the country. And you wouldn't really know it if you weren't tuned in to independent media. That's it. Let's go to a quick break. When we come back, like it or not, we're going to be joined by Professor Jared Ball. And we're going to be, what happened, James?
I'm just talking my ass. I'm like agreeing with you like I'm a dude. Excuse me. And my mic muted the whole time. Being like, okay, with that being said, let's go to oh, scrap. Well, but damn, mic muted.
And you know, I do the show without looking at the screen, so I didn't know if you were there. I thought maybe I missed an audio cue, and but that's all good. Do you want to say what you agreed with me on?
No, I was just saying I agree with you. Dog is absolutely right, and yeah. Look, Dwayne used to be my dog. Dwayne ain't even say nothing. He's like, Bubba, you might mute it. No, I ain't even hear the voice of God in my ear. Nothing. Dang, Dwayne.
Hey, Ben transitioned too fast for me. As soon as you was talking and he ain't hear nothing, he was like, oh, well, guess we going to commercial.
Hey, right.
No, hey, I ain't playing with nobody this year. Listen, man, I had to move my own furniture this weekend. I had a moving company, and he brought the smallest little moving truck I've ever seen in my damn life. So I don't really have much time for nobody no more, man. I'm sorry I didn't wait for you, Jay. I have time for you.
His buddy bought a 12 about the 6-foot truck, and you needed a 24.
Look, see, that's what happened, Ben. We try to cut them corners. Hey, they showed up at Ben's house.
Hey, man, I paid good money, man.
That you attached to the back of the little U-Haul trailer. You attached to the back of the
something. Dwayne, I paid good money for these movers, bro. Man. And then I had to go get a U-Haul, me and my wife out there looking like George Jefferson, George and Wheezy trying to move on up to the east side.
Really,
listen, James. You better take us a break, man, because I'm in rare form. We got to keep it together long enough to make it to the after party. Like it or not, coming up after this.
Oh, man. I'm sorry, bro. All right, y'all make sure that y'all stay tuned. Make sure y'all stay tuned. Like it or not, it's starting next, y'all. Stay tuned.
I stepped out, stepping on next. Little baddie, cashing big checks. I bought the whole block out, now that's a big flex. Peeping out my Uber window, like what's next? Got new levels and new devils out the wazoo. Ain't no worries, life gets better when you find you.
Good morning, everybody. Good morning, Esther.
And hide you until it's time to start anew. So live it up, we grown, ain't got no curfew. Who brought the bad vibes? Tell that bitch move. Walking all
Justice Draconis. Good morning, Justice.
Mad that I survived.
Eddie Benford, yes, we saw that. Actually covered it earlier this morning once we actually broke the news as well, too.
And that's probably why you're mad. Don't let Evie turn you into a trash bag. So get glad, find out why you sad. All that jealousy, you should subside. I think it's time to turn that mirror on you. Put it up close for a clear view. And look deep down inside. And soon you will find a pretty soul that needs more shine. My world has come together, and maybe I just wanna let it shine. There is no good or better. I think tonight I'm gonna make it mine. 1, 2, mean right hook. Come and test me, my mom beat will have you shook. It's a marathon.
Digital Stilettos game, but good morning, sister. Long time no see.
When God made me to be an ice cold meadow. Why are you always pressed about my life? Talking with your friend and me's about me, saying, ooh, girl, have you seen it like the shine lights? You tried, but you could never dim my light. Please know I'm a untouchable girl. I'll slip through your fingers like a real fly kite. Why you wanna turn a good day into fight night? Constantly projecting all that negativity. Take that bad energy and go and get your mind right. Say a prayer tonight to keep it so tight. You in a big world of danger, cause you dwell in that drama. I put the work in, now I got the big bags that you call Birkins. My world has come together, and maybe I just wanna let
y'all make sure y'all stay tuned, y'all.
There is no good or better. I think tonight I'm gonna make it mine. My world has come together, and maybe I just wanna let it shine. There is no good or better. I think tonight.
Got an appetite, let's bake ourselves a treat. What you've been mixing, serve it up the way you please. I love the way you shake, you stir, you heat, you squeeze. So thick, push up and butter me. Poke that, push that, shake that, smack that, mix that, up that, marinate that. We don't need a recipe. Whip that cream, baby. Sweet on me, baby. Wow. Shade up, we can cook up, we can syrup when we hook up, just you and me.
All right, everybody, come and get your coffee, your tea, your drink, your beverage, that means you need. Like it or not,
like 5,000 degrees.
Hey.
It's almost ready, we've been craving, it's our week. Oh, baby, you want it, I got it. I'm hooked on you like phonics, gotta be honest, you're on it.
Y'all make sure y'all stay tuned, y'all. We got more coming up next. Just a more coffee.
We don't need a recipe. Whip that cream, baby. Pour that sweet on me, baby. Shade it. We can cook up, we can syrup when we hook up, just you and me. Whip that cream, whip that.
Oh man, whipping cream. Speaking of whipping cream, last night I made camera got cut off. I made a Tuscan seafood pasta last night that was just absolutely freaking delicious. When I tell y'all I'm Superman in the kitchen, y'all just better watch out. Y'all better watch it, okay? Let me turn back in my camera. I'll be right back.
Wanna be a mini me. All these neck just wanna be a mini me. All these neck just wanna be a mini me. Feeling me, any me. All these neck just wanna be a mini me. All these neck just wanna be a mini me. All these neck just wanna be a mini me. Feeling me, any me. All these neck just wanna be a mini me. All these neck just wanna be a mini me. All these neck just wanna be a mini me. Feeling me, any me. All these neck just wanna be a mini me. All these neck just wanna be a mini me. All these neck just wanna be a mini me.
I'm about to go Goku. Leaving my head is red like old new. Yeah, trying to get the green like it's Whole Foods. Couldn't take my style and now you so blue. Yeah, now we don't even know you. Your hometown we don't even go to. Trying to get it worldwide, global. Looking like I can show you. Been killing this is go-to. Spiller, the whole man killer. Life so free, can't no man kill him. Came from the bottom, was a broke man, get up. Still move like Tim Matt with no found window. Boom, heart in me, I get hectic. I survive through the wreckage. Go look for the exit. New sheriff in town, I get a little reckless. Missed the memo, go check the message. I hate then came back for seconds. I hate seeing your fake little necklace. Lifestyle decrepit, I should probably expect this. Too much game for your league. I'm Hussein with Steve on Hussein on beats. Legendary, I'm everything you aim to be. I'm insane.
All right, y'all. I am back.
All these niggas just wanna be a mini me. All these niggas just wanna be a mini me. All these niggas just wanna be a mini me.
Be the low frequency. Good morning, everybody. Good morning. Y'all make sure y'all stay tuned. We got some guests coming in next. But before we do, y'all know. Hey, I can't do that. Wait a minute. And let me focus on. There we go. Dwayne, are we ready to drop that song, Dwayne? Okay. Good morning, Mama Gwen. Mama running late this morning. Good morning, Mother. Love y'all. Good morning, Q. I know you somewhere back there asleep. Good morning. Ooh, Gwen just called me out in the chat room talking about, Bubba, come see your mama. We'll see. Stop.
You can't break my focus.
Sister Alicia, good morning. Isaac, good morning. I got you, Isaac.
You done got me started. Every day is just the beginning. Ticket to the bank, now I'm winning. Oh. Call me crazy, tell me lies.
Diligence. I like that. Diligence. Good morning.
All I need is more. One more hour, one more minute, one more chance for me to win it. Yeah, every time I dream, I catch it. I know how to make it happen. Climbing every mountain.
Real quick, y'all. Laura Estrada, good morning. Real quick, y'all. Dogs can't operate MRI machines with cat scan. Good morning, Steve.
Burning underneath of my feet. Ooh, she call me crazy, tell me lies.
Rosie Bean, good morning.
Watch me rise. No more anchors holding me down. All I need is more. One more hour, one more minute, one more chance for me to win it. Yeah.
Okay, I got you.
Every time I catch it, I know how to make it happen.
I once wrote a song about a tortilla, but it's more of a rap. Yeah. But no, I wrote this one for real. Y'all like it or not? It's about to go down. Y'all stay tuned. Y'all know what time it is.
Get your coffee, your tea, drink whatever it is you need. It's time for Like It or Not, y'all. 9 a.m. to
the video is coming soon. The video's coming out
on your channel. Yeah, politics and culture is we change skin like we're supposed to. Yeah, interviews and all the news we get to choose what gets the views. Like it or not, with Queen Azor, it's starting now, so stick around.
Like it or not, it's going down. Like it or not, y'all stick around. It's coming through. You know she got a good story for you. Oh, Benjamin, that's my dog. This is his show. He's a politics pro. I am your DJ exclusive. Y'all know who I am.
I stay dropping them jams.
Y'all sing it, everybody. Sing.
Like it or not, it's going down. Like it or not, y'all stick around. Like it or not, it's starting now. Like it or not,
this is how to go down.
Like It or Not with Benjamin Dixon starts now.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning and welcome to Like It or Not, where we're free to tell the truth
and not care who doesn't like it.
I was like, I wonder if he's going to do it for me today, because I know Rebecca's out today, and we haven't gone. I haven't been here in a week. Thank you, James. How you doing, man?
I'm good, brother. How you doing?
Listen, a couple of things, man. A couple of things before we move, and because we have our next guest coming up here, and we have some heavy topics to jump into. But a couple of things, man. I cannot stand you and your dad jokes. I just have to put that into the atmosphere. And then two, most of all, I can't stand you because you're really going to tempt me to do something on that song, Like It or Not. Like it's you're playing it so much, and I hear so many spaces where I might could get in and make a little contribution. And I know you said you're going to get Rebecca to do a contribution to the song, and Nick, and tell us about what you try to get us to do with this song, man.
I can't.
We're not going to tell us.
Remix.
Okay.
No, it's exclusive.
Well, there it is. All right. Well, that's it. To be.
I sent you the tracks, and the only thing I know is you better put the thing down. Then I got to send out a couple of more. So yeah,
you might have yours by the end of the business today, man. Definitely by the end of business this week. That's not a problem at all. That said, I want to shift gears. The United States of America, it has the highest incarceration rate anywhere on the face of the planet. We like to imprison people in this country. I want to bring to the conversation Professor Jared Ball of Morgan State University, along with Kalonji Changa of the podcast called Riot Starter TV. These two brothers have been on the show before, and I want to talk this morning. Thank you, gentlemen, for joining us. I want you to help us to understand this political prisoner aspect of the carceral state that we live in. Before we jump into it, gentlemen, thank y'all so much for joining us. How are you this morning?
Man, it's great to be here as always. You know?
Pleasure. The pleasure is
on the Ben Dixon Show. Like it or not,
man.
I like
That's
the
what I'm
theme
talking
song.
about, man. Listen. We recruit. You rap? No, I'm joking. We don't put you on. Because
don't get him started.
All black men.
Get me out of retirement.
Listen. I was telling my wife, we were talking about the joke on the internet that black men don't cheat. I said, well, okay, black men don't cheat, but all black men rap. At some point, Brother Ball, Professor Ball, I know at some point you dropped a couple of verses. We'll talk about all that stuff in a few. We'll get to all that in a few minutes. Well, actually, you said, "Oh yeah," pretty enthusiastically.
Oh yeah. No, I'm a vicious in the car, alone in the traffic freestyler. I'm a vicious recounter of certain Big Daddy Kane verses.
That's right.
Yeah.
Hold on. Tell what group you came out of.
Oh, see, he's hating. See, I came out of, people don't understand, I was the drummer in the greatest funk band in Western Maryland history between the years 1997 and 99. So I have even a little bit of a funk music background, and we gets down. Mama's Biscuits, the greatest funk band in Western Maryland.
Mama's Biscuits,
because ain't nothing better than Mama's Biscuits.
Ain't nothing better than Mama's Biscuits.
Dang right.
Straight from the Muddy Waters album, Red Man and Method Man. Take it from their inspiration. But yeah, absolutely.
I didn't know you were a funk drummer, man. Listen, we're supposed to be talking about some heavy stuff. We're gonna get to it, but like the whole premise of the show is to break the news to the people without breaking them. So let's do this real quick, because I'm on y'all's schedule. I did not know that you played drums, brother. You could get down.
Yeah, a little bit back in the day, enough to handle it for Mama's Biscuits. I wouldn't want to go too far now. There's but a little bit of my rendition of Buddy Miles style drumming. Yeah.
Now, the check right, we can get him back out of retirement. So it's all good. Let us know.
Yeah, we're gonna get everybody out of retirement around here, man. But listen, let's shift gears, fellas. Listen, there's a mission. There is a consistent thread throughout American history about the imprisonment in some form or fashion of not just black people, but particularly black people with a particular message. This country has no problem. I was talking to some friends. This country has no problem killing our prophets, and it certainly doesn't have any problem imprisoning them. Professor Ball, you're professor of African and African American studies and the diaspora studies, rather. help us to understand all of this that's going on in the most incarcerated country in the nation, in the world, right?
Well, I mean, the United States is often promoted as a democracy born out of a struggle for independence and freedom. But in reality, it is a settler colonial state, a white supremacist capitalist settler colonial state that looks to that operates on that basis. So it's the initial relationships that were developed in this country between labor and ownership, so to speak, or enslaved and master, or black and white, or rich and poor, and still in many cases, men and women. Those initial relationships remain intact, and in many cases, particularly between the relationship of black people and working people and the state, the relationship has remained undisturbed for several hundred years. So what that requires then is a variety of suppressive tactics used in response to those who would struggle for freedom and equality. And when you have a society built on, and still established and operating on the logic of extraction and exploitation, then one way to adjust the contemporary reality to that need is to tell people, is to rebrand people as free, but who are largely either enslaved to a wage slave system or an economic order, or are enslaved literally, as is the case expressed in the 13th Amendment in the Constitution, are literally enslaved through the process of incarceration, which then becomes this major business. And then as we'll turn to the issue of political prisoners, those who would struggle in an organized fashion against that situation are targeted with imprisonment specific to their politics. And that's, sort of the particular area that I know we're looking at this morning.
Yeah. Yeah. And Brother Kalonji, Brother Changa, I wanted to bring you into that conversation because it is, it's the, I don't even want to call it the best kept secret because it's plain as day. It's clear in sight. You drive anywhere. You see, we have made as a nation huge investments into prisons. They got to put people in there. But of course, the people they would want to put in there the most are the people who are speaking out against this system. Just give us your take on all this that's going on.
Well, Michelle Alexander termed it the new Jim Crow, but we see it as business as usual. We know that America, the United States, has made literally a killing and a living off of the enslavement of African and other, indigenous people. You're looking at a country that is 5% of the world population, yet has 25% of all incarcerated people on the planet. Again, 5% of the world population, but 25% of all prisoners on the planet. This country, it thrives off of war. It thrives off of enslavement, and those who choose to speak out against it, those who choose to stand in the forefront and shine a light on it, oftentimes are targeted, as Dr. Ball said. They're targeted not only because of their political actions, but their affiliations, and or their beliefs. And I like to point out as well, when we talk about moving from quote unquote social prisoner to political prisoner, it's, the one thing that folks find quickly is that Malcolm moment oftentimes. You know what I mean? They go in as social prisoners, or they go in like a George Jackson or someone who was a social prisoner and that was looked at as a common thief or whatever. But through reading, through studying, through study groups and political education classes, they become politicized. And at that moment, they begin to take up and maintain the political struggle. And, these type of individuals are often segregated from regular prison population because they are deemed a threat because of the fact that they influence and transform others to become recruits for the movement. They are a threat to prison security and management because they stand in direct and perpetual opposition to the ideas that support the prison and its legitimacy. So I think that one of the things that we should remember and always recall is that, our very encounter with the quote unquote founding fathers of this nation was one of bloodshed. It was one of thievery, land grab, with the natives of this land, which they now call gentrification. All of this is part and parcel. The imprisonment system, it's one gigantic system that is split into different compartments and departments to basically throw the people off and to say, look, well, I'm over here fighting for gentrification, and I'm over here fighting for the environment, and I'm over here fighting for the animals. When in fact, you have folks who are in prison just for speaking out against those particular issues, and you don't have to be a quote unquote killer, or a Robin Hood to be a victim of, of this forced labor.
Professor Ball, if you would take it from there and help us to understand, because there was a distinction there that I think is important, because not only are we dealing with the epidemic of incarceration in general, or over incarceration certainly, but we're dealing specifically with political prisoners who, in some form or fashion, have taken their stand, and you can help correct and clarify, but help the audience understand what is the distinction of a political prisoner in the United States of America.
Sure, it's a great question. So, some like Elaine Brown, former leader of the Black Panther Party, has made this argument. Others have made this argument that all of us are political prisoners because the society is set up in such a way that it targets us for imprisonment and incarceration, and because because incarceration plays such a pivotal role in the structure of the overall economy in creating wealth for a ruling elite. But to Kalonji's point, there are some people like George Jackson who were locked up in at a point in their life for a gas station robbery or some other sort of relatively speaking petty crime, not some sort of violent murderous act. Right. Who then become politicized in prison. So today, people like Kevin Rashid Johnson figure prominently in that category. People who are incarcerated, part of my generation in the 90s, as an adult, engaged in the drug game, but then becomes politicized while incarcerated and then targeted specifically for further repression as a result. So in other words, they get, greater degrees of police repression, having their stuff taken, their letters interfered with and all that kind of stuff because of their attempt to organize prisoners and to learn differently and to re-educate and to become some sort of a more radical political person as opposed to just an incarcerated, meant to be reduced to a state of an animal. Then there are those who are incarcerated and targeted specifically because of their political activity. Those people who are locked up today, like Sundiata Acoli, the comrade of Assata Shakur, who was herself in exile. People like Batulu Shakur, people like David Gilbert, a white ally who is still locked up despite being given clemency from Governor Cuomo. Rochelle McGee, the longest held political prisoner, is still locked up because and if I remember correctly, Kalonji might have corrected me on this, but he might have become more politicized while in prison himself. So he might. But so he might fit into that other category. But the point being, they're targeted because of their politics, and that's what distinguishes them as political prisoners. Now, of course, the United States denies that they exist. So when you raise a Leonard Peltier, the indigenous so-called American held for and in cases where it's even stated by the FBI, we don't know who killed the officers at Pine Ridge, but we're going to put somebody in jail. And Leonard, because of his work with the American Indian movement, is a perfect candidate for that, and to be held in prison for decades ever since. The United States will say that they're not political prisoners. They will say officially, well, they're charged with this crime or that crime. But any investigation as to what has gone on, Russell Maroon Schultz in particular, another example, if you just look at the cases and how these courtroom spectacles took place, you see that it's not about any actual evidence. It's not about any actual crime that these folks are said to have committed. It's because of the political activism and the ideas that they represent that they don't want us to adopt going forward. And then lastly, I'll just say we have to be aware that this issue, it isn't just something relegated to the past. And this is the 60s and 70s and old folks, still complaining. This is something that people today have to be aware of, because new political prisoners are being created even as we speak, because of their participation against police violence or some other organized activity against the state. So we have to be aware not only of those legacies, so to speak, but how this is something that will impact us going forward.
I think people could most readily identify with that threat from the George Floyd protests. And I don't know if any of you remember specifically where they were just disappearing people off the streets of Denver. I mean, just pulling up unmarked vehicles, not even in uniform, just snatching people off the street. So there is obviously not only the capacity, I mean, this country is built to be a carceral state, but there's great capacity for it to go even further. I want to kind of shift gears here and ask some questions from me. How do you two brothers, and just kind of expand the conversation, how do y'all deal with the fact of the reality of the empire that we find ourselves inside of, along with trying not to become the next political prisoner? It's kind of a big question, but whoever wants to take it first, the floor is open.
Well, I'll jump on it. Basically, my thing is, there's a quote, I'd rather be a lion for a day than a lamb that lives forever. I think that the thing is, if our ancestors were as cowardly and as lazy as many of us are today, then we wouldn't exist. We'd still be in the cotton fields. So I feel like it is my duty, because of the fact that I don't feel my life is my own. I think that, we come here and not on no cliche, supernatural type way. We are here for a purpose. And I think that anyone who sits back and allows their people or our people to be murdered and brutalized and tortured and not even have the gall to open your mouth and speak, then you are a strange kind of man or woman. When we look at political prisoners, it's not about a crime. It's not about guilt or innocent. You look at folks like Mumia Abu-Jamal, who for all practical purposes was doing what you all are doing on the Ben Dixon Show. They're doing what we were doing on Black Power Media. Mumia was speaking out against the oppression in Philly. He spoke out against the attacks and brutal assaults on the MOVE organization. He was a journalist. You know what I mean? And he was a great journalist. So the thing is, they had to snatch him off the street. Imam Jamil Al-Amin, formerly H. Rap Brown, here in Atlanta, he cleaned up the West End community. You know what I mean? He had folks like Coretta Scott King and Andrew Young, moving their children into the West End, where at one point it was a dangerous spot where folks were, it was a lot of drug dealing and literally street organizations and quote unquote thugs cutting pigs open, letting it bleed into the street, raping women, disrespecting the community, violating. And he cleaned up that community. But the thing is, we have to remember that if we say that this is an incarceral state, if we say that this is a police state or a prison state, we have to remember that in order for police to exist, crime has to exist. You know what I mean? So when you come along and you messing up the game, you understand what I'm saying? Then it becomes problematic. You know what I mean?
They don't really want us to stop crime, is what you're saying.
It's like you stop crime, folks lose jobs. You know what I mean? So they'd much rather you lose your lives and livelihoods and loved ones and so on and so forth than to compromise their check. That's what war is all about. There's always, a war on crime, a war on drugs, a war on Syria, a war on Afghanistan, when ultimately it's a war on the black, brown, and other indigenous people. You know what I mean? Because of the fact that it's about capitalism and imperialism. In order for capitalism to exist, of course, someone has to be at the bottom serving and someone has to be at the top getting fat. And United States government has been getting fat from day one at the hands of and bodies of us.
Wow.
So we have to remember that.
Absolutely. Professor Ball, I don't know if you want to just jump in right there.
Can I just add very quickly? I'm just going to say that sorry.
No, go ahead.
Sorry. Yeah, I just want to say that for me, it's very. The point is very selfish. There's nothing more. I fear nothing more than being imprisoned, other than being imprisoned and nobody being aware of or fighting for my freedom. So if we want to support political struggle, then we have to be willing to support those who get incarcerated, because it could become any one of us. I mean, again, I cannot imagine the brief times I've spent in the hands of the state. The idea that no one would be fighting for my freedom every second of the day would be terrifying. So I think it's important that we try to not only
Brother Ball,
fight for those who are still incarcerated, but remember that they were incarcerated or are incarcerated for a set of ideas. Yeah, sorry.
That's right. Ahead, yeah. No, I was just jumping in there because your signal, you're saying, I can make out what you're saying, but your signal's kind of jammed up there. I want to give it a second to cycle through. But I hear what you guys are saying. So as we talk as people are listening, as people are at home listening, because there's and you could testify to this way better than me. There is a huge veil of separation in terms of black politics in this country as it pertains to what we cling to and champion, right? When it comes to just your standard black politics, misleadership class, if you want to call it that, ain't nobody out there really talking about our political prisoners, right? So I feel like there's a veil, and perhaps that veil could be fear, ignorance, whatever it is. Help us to understand how we get the people to realize that if it's happening to anybody, then we definitely could be next.
Listen, like they said, believe it, when they was talking about the Nazis and the Jews, they talked about how if they come for me in the night, they'll come for you in the day. And I think that, for the most part, most black folks have relatives who are incarcerated or know someone that's incarcerated. The unfortunate thing is, out of sight, out of mind. It's free such and such for a few minutes, and then they forget all about it. My position is for folks who talk about reparations, because I know that's a big issue now. We look at how any civilized government deals with their political prisoners or how they deal with the captives, so to speak. No deals can be negotiated until you up those political prisoners. They want their comrades back first. You know what I mean? Right. If someone kidnaps your wife, you're not going to say, they're not going to say, you know what, we're going to form a truce, everything cool, so I got your wife and kids. But, we should stop fighting. Mate. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Exactly. I got out of pocket. Right. I'm sorry. Nah, it's all good. But you're not. You're not going to say, look, we're not shaking hands. We ain't hanging out. We ain't doing nothing until you give me my wife and kids back. That's how we have to look at this thing about political prisoners. We have to take it personal. And the fact that we're not taking it personal is why many of our political prisoners languish and ultimately die in those gulags. You look at folks like Sundiata Kohli, who is 84 years old. He just got another 3-year hit, meaning that they denied him parole. He's 84 years old, a former NASA employee, NASA, right? A very, very brilliant man, but yet you have Sirhan, who's just granted parole. He assassinated Robert Kennedy. You have John Hinckley Jr.
Yes, I was just about to say. Yeah, right. Reagan's would be.
Yes. So let's examine this. We're talking about these particular brothers. In many cases, the quote unquote political prisoners were accused of murdering police officers. In many cases, there's no physical, scientific, or any other type of evidence, saying that they did that. But you saw John Hinckley Jr. I mean, they didn't even charge. Right. He wasn't even found guilty. They said that he was mentally ill. You know what I mean? He's on YouTube making songs and all kinds of stuff right now. But you have political prisoners who've been locked up. Many of them for over 50 years.
You just put something together in my head that, Professor Ball, I hope your microphone is back with us, because what Brother Changa just said right there, this country will release the assassins of their own emperor, their own president, before they will release black people. But that reminds me of what happened on January 6th. They will burn this whole country down on behalf of their white supremacy before they do a damn thing for black people. Professor Ball, I want you to get the last word because we're coming up on our time here. And I would like for both of you actually to tell people how they can support your work. But just Brother Ball, Professor Ball, help us with that.
So just very quickly, and I apologize for my connection issues. I appreciate what you're doing here, Ben. The bottom line is the reason they could let Sirhan out is that even to the extent that he actually is guilty of what he's accused of, the act he's charged with, that is killing Robert F. Kennedy and taking this country that much farther away from what would be considered a more progressive trajectory than it's on now or has been since that assassination, is more in line with the power that be than supporting the politics of those who are locked up as political prisoners would be to this day. So Sirhan represents more of a support network for those in power, unfortunately, than those who are our political prisoners to this day. And I thank you very much, and I apologize again for my connection issues this morning.
No problem, man. You said a word there. And Brother Changa, if you would tell everybody how they can support not only your work and Brother Ball and Professor Ball's work, but also how can they generally be supportive of the fight on behalf of political prisoners?
I would say two things. For one, I would say definitely join an organization. I think that, to safeguard yourselves and to safeguard us, our people in general, the first thing you want to join an organization that has a program and plan of action, not just something, not just empty rhetoric and fashionable militancy. You want to get down with folks who actually are committed and have a track record of working on behalf of our people. Two things I would say. First of all, again, to echo Dr. Ball, definitely appreciate the support from your show. It's an awesome show. We appreciate that. We would also we do a lot of political prisoner work on our platform, which is Black Power Media. So to the listeners, when you're not listening to this particular show, definitely check out Black Power Media on YouTube as well. To support political prisoners, I would say go to thejerichomovement.com. thejerichomovement.com. And lastly, if you're looking for an organization to join, I represent an organization called thepeoplesarmy.org, which is the Seattle movement. And we have about a dozen or so organizations that have come together as a quote unquote umbrella to fight oppression as a whole. But keep up the excellent work, Ben.
Hey, man.
Thank you,
man.
We're absolutely grateful for all that you do. And it's necessary.
And anytime. Thank you. And anytime you guys are available to come in and help educate us and keep us on target, because one thing I committed to do, man, this has been a long pandemic. The pandemic has been long enough for me to be like 3 different people. And at this stage of my evolution, I don't have time to talk about everything they want us to talk about. We got to talk about what's important to us. And that's first, like it or not. Gentlemen, thank you so much for joining us this morning. DJ Exclusive, I'm going to call to audible here. If you're ready, let's get ready to take it to the after party, man. Rebecca Zor is not with us today, and we're in the last 10 minutes here. We're going to take it to the after party. If you are a patron, patreon.com/like it or not to get access to it. Go over to Black Power Media. And good morning to everyone over there who's streaming the simulcast. Thank you for watching and supporting Brother Ball and Brother Changa. Shout out to you all. Everybody, patreon.com/like it or not if you want to get access to the after party. If not, that's all I got. James, it's in your hands.
All right, y'all. Thank you so much again for our guest joining us today. Again this morning, shout out to everybody that came over from Black Power Media. We saw y'all in the chat room. We greatly appreciate it. Thank y'all again. Looks like something on the screen. But good morning, everybody. Again, we hope you enjoyed the show today. Rebecca, our sister Rebecca, we love you, sister. Keep your head up, sis. Don't let them stress you out. I ain't gonna let them stress me out either. God dang it. All right, y'all. Y'all stay tuned. After party is starting up next. Dwayne is gonna take me off camera, but the music is still playing because I forgot to submit my time sheet for work, and I want to get paid. So Dwayne, take me down, but the music is still playing, y'all, and I'll be here talking to y'all as well, too. Y'all stay tuned. After party coming up next.
Know that they ride or die. I keep boys by my side. Know that they ride or die. I keep boys by my side. Day we hustle, but the night we. Know that they ride or die. Know that they ride or die. I keep boys by my side. Know that they ride or die. I keep boys by my side. Day we hustle, but the night we boys by my side. Know that they ride or die. My name came up a lot of sounds, more when I was not around. Certain people that I know, they ain't no longer about. My name came up a lot of sounds, more when I was not around. Certain people that I know,
hey, I actually think no is the public stream still? Oh, never mind. I'm just having a lot of trouble with the stream right now. Good morning, y'all. Y'all stay cool.
They ain't no longer about. My name came up a lot of sounds, more when I was not around. Certain people that I know, they ain't no longer about. I'm an OG boy. Know that they ride or die. I keep boys by my side. Know that they ride or die. I keep boys by my side. OG boy. Day we hustle, but the night we. OG boy. Know that they ride or die. I'm an OG boy. Know that they ride or die. I keep boys by my side. Know that they ride or die. I keep boys by my side. These brothers, my guys, know that they fly. Know that they fly. Know that they ride or die. Cold, these brothers, my guys, know that they fly. Know that they fly. Know that they ride or die. CJ Ike, they ain't no longer about. They ain't no longer about. They ain't no longer about. CJ Ike. No longer about. We hustle, but the night we play by my side. Know that they ride or die. I'm an OG boy. Know that they ride or die. I keep boys by my side. Know that they ride or die. I keep boys by my side. Hustle, but the night we play by my side. Know that they ride or die.
All right, we can go ahead and go now. I'm good to go. I'm sending the email right now, but I'm good to go.
checking for me, no one checking on me, so I had to go run up a check. I got the message on me, ain't no flexing on me, my attorney gon' call and collect. Blessings on blessings for me, my successes only made them envious, they got upset. I had to put all their egos in check. I want the money, the power, respect, and I heard you know so-and-so, you not a threat, cause I really know so-and-so. They like my family, so they go pretend that they cool till they bust at your motherfucking chest. I'm getting gutter, my flow been like butter, my check in the bank. They see the number, all of my haters feel one of two ways. Really upset or they show some respect. I can't even think about it, I've been up, so read about it. No beat around it, straight to it, no ring around it. You coming for me, we'll see about it. We'll never see it when I get my feet up. 100 meters where I run the fee up, and go Changa nana mana pia. I had to re-up on a reel, so you stay defeated, and put it back into the bit, cause I don't really need it. I heard they checking for me, no one checking on me, so I had to go run up a check. I got the message on me, ain't no flexing on me, my attorney gon' call and collect. Blessings on blessings for me, my successes only made them envious, they got upset. I had to put all their egos in check. I had to put all their egos in check. You're not entitled to anything else. I get 10 years of this under my belt. Your art is an art that
all right,
feel it and nobody hears it.
We are good to go. Welcome back, y'all. Welcome back to the Screamer Brother from Another Mother.
It gotta go. You should be happy I lighten the load. The weight of your arrogance, heavy as stone. I make an appearance, they already know. That chip on your shoulder will crumble and fold. Yeah, it's not a secret that you have been fearing the shit that I'm on you back to the brag and the boast. But
there you go. Dwayne,
like I'm here somewhere. I felt like I was somewhere in the trapped in a. Anyway, what's going on, James? Who was that track we just got through listening to?
No Stuff. It's Ego. It's called Egos by No Stuff. ANOW Stuff.
ANOW. No Stuff. No, K-N-O. I thought you said A. Okay. I'm about to say that's a very unique way. I was thinking Aaron. I thought it was an Aaron situation. Okay. That said, welcome to the after party. We're still remaining live for all the different audiences. Rebecca Zor is out today. I'm exhausted, man. I got in at midnight. And then, you know me, I wake up at 5 like clockwork, and I was like, well, it's time to get ready for the show. So here we are today, man. So I think the audience will forgive me if I go ahead and we got a couple of clips that we want to go over before we get out of here. But I think we're going to end a little bit early, if that's okay with you.
Yeah, man, I'm cool with that. Yep.
All right, let's go to line 5. This is the one story that I want us to cover before we get out of here, and it has if I can get my screen up properly, I want to talk about the. Hang on, it's going to take me a second. This is the after party, so I don't care how long it takes me to get there. All right. This is a story that you dropped, James, actually. There was a protest that was planned here in Georgia, and the students were suspended for just planning the protest. The black students in Georgia. Help me understand the story. I don't know all the details, but we have a clip.
Yep. Rome, Georgia, actually, of course, where there are still a few cities and counties in Rome, Georgia, where, I mean, they just started segregating schools like maybe 5 to 10 years ago. 5 to 10 years ago. 2000s.
They started integrating schools just 5 years ago?
Thank you. Not segregating. Yeah, integrating schools.
I mean, I'm not worried about that part. I'm saying I'm not worried about that word. I'm talking about 5 years ago?
Yeah, man. Some of these schools in some of these districts just started doing that. I remember hearing a couple of years ago that somebody's prom, they still had 2 proms. One that was an integrated prom, and one was whites only. This is it's still a thing. Like, this is still legal, and they're still doing it. So this story came across my Instagram over the weekend, and it's good to see some of our younger white kids that they feel some type of way about it, because here it is, they know that they were planning the protest, and here it is that they didn't get anything, nothing happened to them. Nothing at all happened to the white kids. Only the black kids were suspended for protesting. And the white kids are like, it just needs to stop, because here it is, they're able to wear Confederate flags and everything else and say all kind of stuff. They don't get anything done to them. Black kids do it. They get everything. Punishment, everything. Dwayne, roll that clip, Dwayne.
That are out here right now. I didn't get all the African Americans that was up there. They suspended them. They didn't suspend me. They didn't suspend her either, and we both disrupted all the 8th grade classes.
What would you tell me about the white privilege? How do you feel about that?
I feel that they give the white people more privilege than they do the African American. They let them slide with more stuff than the African Americans get to. And
so what are you all out here protesting to say?
To say that they need to stop racism at the school we're not allowed to walk around with a Black Lives Matter shirt on or LGBTQ flags, but kids can walk around with Confederate flags out here.
Come on, somebody. All right. All right. The kid's going to be all right. Every now and then, man, I get a little bit of encouragement. I feel like the kid's going to be all right. Like, it's a shame, the situation, the fact that they have to be out here protesting these things in the year of our Lord 2021, right? But at least there's some kids on the right side of it.
Yeah, that's the thing I always say. Racism is it's almost learned. It is learned and it's taught because here it is. I really think that some of our youth, a lot of them now have the mind to know of their own, have a mind of their own to know better and do better. But sometimes when you have parents that are just down your neck and is shoving it down your throat, of course they're going to get taught that. And at that age, the mind is a sponge for young kids, especially younger kids. So I'm just happy to see that some of these kids are not putting up with it. And I just hope that they go back and they tell their parents something. Because it's the parents. It's always the parents. As Mr. Wells used to say, I blame your mom and your daddy.
Blame your mom. I blame your parents. You ain't got no home training.
Okay. You ain't got no home training. Okay.
No home training.
So I'm just hoping that something is done. But, these are just the kids. If the kids stay to walk out, do something, y'all make it happen. But it's going to be the parents that's going to be the problem. Always.
And for those people who have no idea what me and James were just sharing a moment around, sir, it's our band director used to talk about our parents so bad when we messed up. He was like, I blame your parents. The reason you can't play you can't play trumpet because your mama sucks, stuff like that.
You can't march down the field because your daddy went home. Damn, man.
Can't get your legs up to 90 degrees because your daddy abandoned you. Got abandonment issues.
You can't think right because your mama dropped your ass on your head when you was a little baby.
No kind of respect for the story. It's an important story. We love you guys, but this is a good jump off point.
Right. What happens in the after party, even when it's public.
But when I tell you that man, it worked because that's why we still the best damn band in the land. Shout out the Cookman College Marching Wildcats. God dang it. It ain't FAMU.
Bro, I never forget, man. Oh man, Wells used to jump on us so bad, but I'm not gonna lie. I was gonna lie and say, but we used to work extra hard because of Wells. But we worked extra hard because we just loved our craft so much so that I'm in tears over here this morning. I got to shift gears to one other story that I said we were going to skip, but I see that this is from my hometown. One of my hometowns. I've lived everywhere, James. Boynton Beach, Florida. I lived in Boynton Beach for about 10 years. Don't ask about me. No, anyway, the first black woman, Latasha Clemens, to ever be a firefighter in Boynton Beach is suing the city after it depicted her as a white woman in a mural. Back in April, hashtag Latasha Clemens from Boynton Beach filed a lawsuit against the city after a mural that was drawn to honor her and her peers reflected her as a white member of the city fire department. Now the Boynton Beach City Commission is expected to meet this week to discuss the legal matter and the issue itself. The city commission will meet in a closed door session to discuss the litigation, blah, 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 blah. I'm just curious how you make that mistake. Like what was the... Go ahead,
there's sound for the clip. This was actually, we'll have to bring this back for Rebecca, but there's actually sound on this one if you want to play.
Okay, let's run this clip. The attorney, looks like it's the attorney for Latasha Clemens. Let's take a look at it.
I was in shock when I saw it. I was disappointed, and then I was outraged. I've had sleepless nights over it because, I've tried to treat everybody with respect in my community and my department. Well, initially, I just want to know why it happened, who made the change.
Latasha Clemens is a local hero. As a little girl, she dreamed of becoming a firefighter, and she achieved that dream. She became the first black female deputy fire chief. Born and raised in the city of Boynton Beach, she gave her life's blood to the city and the people of Boynton Beach to be whitewashed on a wall that should have been representative of the city.
Well, I tell you what I'm going to do, James. When I get off of this episode, I'm going to call my folks down there in Boynton Beach and see what's going on with this story. Because who thought that was a good idea is all I'm. It's like
probably
all the
probably
things that you're going to get sued over. Exactly.
Yeah, probably the artist being the dumbass probably messed that up, because I'm like, definitely, you can't say that it was an accident for the simple fact that there's a black man in the other picture that they got pretty good. So it's almost like, okay, oh crap, we put the wrong face on here for this woman. Let's just not change it. Let's just just leave it, because the face looks blurred out. So it almost looks like y'all in one. I don't know. It's like, did you intentionally do this, or was it like, because the face shape doesn't even match what's on the picture right there? That's a white man, so it's almost like they took an image that was like a proof that they just had sitting around. Okay, this is how it's going to look, and this is what that's the negative, and that's what the hell they just put on.
It doesn't look like
okay.
You make a really good point. It doesn't look like her.
Yeah, it doesn't look like her. So it almost looks like that y'all messed that up. Y'all totally screwed that up, and y'all just didn't worry about fixing the damn mistake.
James, I need you to pause it, David, Dwayne, pause it at the picture of her, because it looked like they got a pencil and just erased her face, man. It looked like they erased it and then like, oops, I messed up. Let me start over it, but didn't go back and finish it.
Yeah, because this type of artwork looks like it's just a printout that they put up there. So it looks like they messed up, dude.
They messed up, right? There or something.
They messed up. They about to get sued. I wanted to see this clip so I could see if I knew Latasha, because I was like, she about to get this lawsuit. I was going to slide back in Boynton Beach, but hey, sis, remember? And I'm looking really close at the attorney. I'm like, did the attorney go to the church I went to? She probably did. But anyway, I digress. There's a lot of craziness going on. Listen, folks, we got plenty of other stories that we could cover, but I'm wild and out of pocket today. That's because I'm on 3 hours of sleep. James, man, I could turn it over to you to play, or we could just call it a day and pick it up tomorrow, because Rebecca Azor will be back. Go ahead, man.
I was about to say, man, we can call it a day.
You ain't gonna complain, are you?
No, because especially because Industrial Law said it looks like Laura Vigo from Ghostbusters. That's who it does look like.
Vigo. Lord Vigo.
Industrial Laws, bro, you stupid, man.
Talk about Vigo, the master of evil. Don't play with me, man. That's one of my favorite movies right there. Bobby Brown does that song. Man, that's what it looked like for real. The Carpathian.
Oh my God, the Carpathian. Man, take your ass to sleep, bro.
I will see y'all tomorrow. James, play something so I can go take off this jacket and roll right into this bed that's next to this desk. Thank y'all. We'll see everybody in the morning. Take care, everybody.
I ain't even ready yet. It's talking about place to lock in, y'all. We greatly appreciate y'all for coming through this morning. Hey, man, definitely stay tuned. We can see y'all. Good morning, y'all. Real quick, let me give a shout out to... Real quick, Jam Tune says, can we get a happy birthday for Dak _Apollyon? Dak _Apollyon. Happy birthday, Dak. Happy birthday. Thank y'all for tuning in. Again, we will see y'all in the... Wait a minute, I gotta read one more thing up before Dwayne shoots up. This is real. Okay, Mickey Mallory, thank you for your 2 super chats. I got one for you. This is Real Combo. Shout out to all of our POWs and brothers in the struggle. We love and miss y'all. So shout out Mickey Mallory for your super chat. We greatly appreciate it. Now we will see y'all in the morning. Deuces.
I'm in line with the stars. I'm in sync with the earth. 10 toes deep, flower child from the turf. I never switch sides. Like even when I die, I'ma ride for the squad. Let her ties in a hearse. I've been on the vibe, kinda hard to describe. I'm in between, I'm good and it's fine, but I'm tired of the grind. Then I come alive in the night to realize I'm in the middle of the time of my life. I never so packed for the stack, never lied on the rap. Got a bag from the way that I write it. Queen Lincoln Tyson, through that I survived, doing 80 to the house. Then I hit it to the sky, changed haters on a tirade. Talking to the crib in the face. be still, let that hate stuff fade. We all want the same. We all want a meal in the safe. I wanna live like I'm trying to reach enlightenment. Trail spill from my lips, feel big from the bib. Take a sip till I pass out. Try and get grit, but it don't make sense. Cause you can lose life on this fast route. Yeah, turn thoughts to a cash